Hey everybody, I'm Michelle and this is my meadow. I am excited to have everybody joining us today here. I've been making Facebook live garden tours for quite a while, but this is the first one that I am actually preparing for YouTube. So for the new YouTube subscribers, welcome to the meadow for the first time. To my longtime watchers from Facebook and my friends, thank you guys so much for all the love and support that you show and share for me. I am incredibly grateful. You guys inspire me to keep going and keep growing, and I'm really grateful for that. One of the questions that I get is, how big is your property? And the answer is not very. I am on a 1/4 acre suburban lot. It backs up to a creek, and so part of that is not my land. I only garden on my lot proper. We garden the perimeters of the lot. We garden the perimeters of the house. And it's mostly from the front of the house back. I have a little bit of gardening going on in the front yard. I'm building a fruit field up there, and you all see that on the tour as we go through today. One of the things that I counted up this morning because I thought it was interesting is we have 27 fruit-bearing or food-bearing trees and shrubs outside of our normal vegetable garden. 27 different ones plus the banana circle, and there's probably more than 20 banana plants in the banana circle. And I thought that was kind of interesting because people think if they're in a really small lot, maybe they can't grow that much. Now, we don't have a homeowners association. As long as we meet all the city rules, we can do what we would like in our yard. And so I don't have an HOA person coming by, but I want to be a great neighbor. I share food with my neighbors. I want to keep it looking nice so they're not embarrassed when their friends come over. So while I don't have those rules, I still want to have a nice looking garden that is nice enough for folks to see and look at. At the same time, here's your warning. If you are logging in and watching this garden tour today and you're looking for a pristine garden that's well kept and well managed and is perfect in every way or perfect in any way, this is probably not the garden tour for you, because honestly, I garden by the seat of my pants. I make a plan and then I take action and I adjust the plan and I keep going. And I think for me, if I didn't do that, I would never get things done because you just get paralyzed by the analysis of getting started. And let's go see what is growing on in the garden. I think the best place to start is here on the patio, y'all. You know that I had one green stalk, but I'm not sure that you knew I had a second green stalk. So we'll start here on the back corner. This is our green stalk. We're growing some Asian greens in here and lettuce and cilantro and dill and yummies here, so we can walk out and just grab some herbs while we're cooking. Then we have a dragon fruit here. This is our second year with the dragon fruit. It stayed in the garage for the first year and now it's looking really great. We have some Shishito Peppers, another dragon fruit here. We're seeing some new growth on the dragon fruit, so we're excited. We hope that we'll have some dragon fruit this season. Some more Shishito Peppers. And for those who have watched for a while, you may remember that last fall I planted some orange hat tomatoes. This is the end of those, but basically this is a 10-month-old tomato bush that was overwintered and not very well taken care of. Here is this other green stalk, and I have since harvested all of the ready greens from here, and we've been eating out of that. But it is just doing great, and I can see now that my little mini pepper plant has some peppers on. Right there has some pepper. We're also growing in this one. Now we can see here the basil's doing great. I put these Thai eggplant in the top, but I think I'm going to regret it because the Thai eggplant that I have in the garden right now is 2 feet tall. So I think these are probably going to have to come out and get planted somewhere else. For those who haven't met Moose yet, he's one of the used to be feral cats that stays here on the property and helps keep the strangers away. We just got in some new plants from Native and Uncommon Plants. So these are all Florida native plants. We have woodland phlox, horse mint, ironweed, milkweed, coral honeysuckle, and one more that I can't remember. And so I'm excited to start getting these planted out. Probably a good time to talk about our water catchment system. We have tanks on each side of the house where we collect the water and we use it around the garden as much as possible. We recently put this concrete pad underneath it and I'm very excited to have it. It keeps everything nice and stable. And in a normal Florida rainstorm, I can fill this up in about 15 or 20 minutes, so it's really nice. This is the south side of the house. And when I tell you that everything is not perfect, I am really trying to garden wherever I can. And so we have some tomatillos, we have some Brussels sprouts that are left over from winter, tomatoes in here, more tomatoes, eggplant. This is comfrey that's going crazy, and this is a dual purpose plant for me because it brings beautiful flowers and it's great for the pollinators, but I also can use those leaves to make fertilizer and mulch and compost. We have lemongrass, but we've really just tried to take advantage of all the space here. I'm not super happy with how things have done in this particular space. The sun beats on it pretty terribly, and the annuals are not looking as good as they should. And so I'm actually working on a project now to bring up the vitality of this bed. One of the people that I really enjoy watching on YouTube is Jess from Roots and Refuge Farms, and she talks about planting something lovely. And here we have a tabibua tree. This is something that my wife wanted. Once a year, it will put out these gorgeous yellow flowers, and so it'll be really nice to have something lovely, as Jess would say, in the front yard. So you can kind of see the angle back here of what's going on. We still have lots of room to plant and do stuff, but here's where we are. This banana circle is 2 years old. The original plants were purchased in 2019. I bought 3 banana plants. In 2020, planted them out here. At that point, there were 9. We harvested our first bananas last year, and they are going crazy. What we've also added in the banana circle are taro root and a papaya that is not doing well. This is the second papaya I've tried in this spot, and it's not working out. So I'm going to have to do some more experimentation. In the center of this banana circle basically is a compost hole. We dug a hole that's probably 100 gallons deep and filled it with all kind of wood. And when it rains out here, the beautiful thing is, because there's this slope, the rain goes to the middle and then flows into this bed, which is probably why everything does so well. So we really did a plan with this and really did intentional work on making this in the right spot in the yard. And I think that is kind of the key whenever you're building a garden, is putting the right plants in the right place and the right conditions. Over here is our very first garden bed. We started this one our second year here, and it's done great. It has wood in the bottom, just like our birdies and Vigo bed. It's time to take the peas out now and plant some cucumber in here. And I wanted to kind of leave it in this condition so you can see it's sort of woolly and crazy at the moment. But I've just been interplanting. Last summer, there was okra, and these stems are left over from the okra plants, and I used those to help make cover for the bed this past winter. The kale is here, so I planted the kale in between the okra. Then when I cut the okra out, the kale just went crazy. There's broccoli in here, there's Chinese cabbage in here, and there is sugar snap peas, and of course, my subpod worm bin. So this bin allows us to bring our kitchen scraps, and we take turns on the side. One week I put them on the left, the next week I put them on the right. We have these little worm blankets here. If you look on the bottom here, you can see all these lovely, lovely, lovely critters who are eating my kitchen scraps. I wanted this system specifically because I am working with one arm and will be working with one arm for a while. I wanted a way that I would still be able to do my composting. Here we have blueberries. There is a blackberry that is not doing well. I need to figure out what's wrong. Avocado, raspberry, Cattley Guava. This is just 2 plants right here. If you guys remember me talking about my Vivipari Tomato on the page, I had a tomato that we opened up and had seedlings in it. I threw it in a pot, and these are the seedlings that I still have left. I did not get them planted before, I guess they're not seedlings anymore, before my surgery. And I have one ripe one on there, and I'm hoping that today or tomorrow it's going to be ripe enough to pick, and I can taste and find out was it worth the effort to work on these all winter long to try to grow them, and we'll find out. They're not looking great because they're sort of unloved and abused, but I'm just letting nature do its thing because I have to work on the things that I can and accept that I can't do it all right now. Next, we'll pop over in the greenhouse. And so the greenhouse is a mess, y'all. This was all supposed to be taken down for my surgery, and we just didn't get it done. And so what I have now is I still have some tomatoes that I overwintered in the greenhouse, and we just picked a batch yesterday. I have some Napa cabbage that the snails are enjoying. We have radish, daikon radish, some chard. And what I'm really trying to do now with the things left in here is I'm letting things go to seed. So this is romaine lettuce, and I am going to come back, in fact we're doing it today, stick a little baggie over the end of that and clip that so I can try planting the lettuce again. This was a store-bought plant, and so I do not know, and you don't know unless you're buying heirloom, I don't know what will happen when I replant those, but I'm going to find out. Some people ask me what all these jugs are in these beds, and they are just to block that lovely cat that you saw from making a home in the beds or using it as a toilet, quite frankly. If you notice, you probably see these are blue water barrels. These are blue water barrels, and we cut them in half, and I made these H stands. If anybody's interested in how I made these, I have some photos and stuff that I can share with y'all later. But I've been really happy with them. It made a really nice way that I could pop up some elevated garden beds out of something that I wasn't using that I've had here for a while. I call this orchard row in the back. We have, and most of these are in pots, and some of them will stay in some kind of a pot for a while until we figure it out. This land back here is very dense and holds water, and it doesn't drain well. So I've left things in pots because I found that things that I put in the ground back here just don't thrive. And so we have mulberry here, a lemon tree. We have a tangerine tree that is in much need of water. This, I did not plant here. This is a Florida native. This is called Spiderwort. And I try to collect them. I'm actually probably going to dig these up and take them to my front garden bed because they're so lovely. This is another Cattley Guava that I dug up and I tossed in a pot, so we'll see how it does. I'm just trying to keep it alive until I can find a place for it. We have tangerine here, a Myers lemon. We have an elderberry tree here that I planted. Now if we can, from the angle, kind of can see the white flowers at the top. I also have a beautyberry there that I planted. Oh, there's the loquat. Oh, I didn't count the loquats, but they're not producing yet in my things. And I have some elderberry in the back that grow naturally here along the edge of the creek. Lime and another Myers lemon. Now here we have our little butterfly and bird habitat. We have this hummingbird bush, and some of the native plants that you saw over there will come into this little section. This is sort of my wild little section that I have here on each side. Here's a little butterfly habitat, and we actually have milkweed here that is a native milkweed, and the leaves are just coming back. We've already had guests in the meadow, monarchs in the meadow growing, and so that's kind of exciting. I don't normally take folks back to the creek, but if anybody would like to see. I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time, so bear with me. We back up to this great creek. We lost a tree back here last year and weren't able to get it back out, but I can see that it's starting to break down, and nature will do what nature does. But it's so peaceful back here, we enjoy it. We do fish back here. This week we saw some deer back there, which doesn't excite me because I don't want them to cross the creek and come visit the garden. All this mulch came from when the neighbors had trees cut down. We asked the mulch service, and the neighbor allowed them to bring their shredder to the back, or their wood chipper to the back, and they shot it all onto a big pile on our property here, which was really exciting. We have the birdies in the Vigo bed set up at the very back right now. And it's kind of hard to tell from here, probably easier from the other side, but each of our houses slopes down in the middle. So they built these houses up, it slopes to the middle. So I intentionally built my gardens in the low zones so that we could take advantage of the water that we have here. So really happy with the progress in the beds. And in fact, I've got to raise the roof, as it were. I need to get that bigger. We have peppers. I planted in some lettuce. I can see I have a great pepper on right there. I don't even know what it is because I think I shared with some of y'all, I wrote my tags up with red permanent marker and the sun bleached them all. But I definitely need to raise the roof on this and allow these plants some more room to grow up. The tomatillos are growing like crazy. We've got tomatoes and cucumber over here, more peppers and tomatoes. Right here is daikon radish, and over here is wasabi radish. And here we have some leeks that are starting to come up. And this is the kale that just keeps on giving. Makes me so happy. I keep giving away kale. I'm eating all I want and giving it away. And so it's been great. And next to that are some nasturtiums. This is our first experiment with a bed like this. If you'll notice, the bed edges are clipped together. That is because I didn't want to make a permanent bed here. I wanted to sort of get a raised garden bed. This is sort of modeled after Charles Dowding in the way that he puts a bed up, but I needed the sides to stay together and get established before I let the edges off. It was a suggestion he had in one of his videos, so I thought I would try it. So we started some corn here. I would love to plant some more corn in succession, but I'm not sure that I'll have the ability to do that. In the middle here we have winter squash, and then we have some potatoes. Over here we have some potatoes, and I see another squash down there. Woo woo! We have pumpkin here and some more tomatillos. I intentionally planted the tomatillos here because it's directly across from the water tank on this side. And so when this overflows, it flows off the edge, across the ground here, and seeps down into this. And so it gives me some additional water. We have another Cattley Guava here. This one I planted in the ground at the same time as the others, and you can see the difference. Those over there out of the ground, these in the ground, difference. Here we have a Persimmon Tree. It's putting on some nice growth now. And it is not done as well here in the ground. It's kind of funny. I don't know if it's the soil, the things we put in the ground back here. They just haven't done as well. And so we're going to continue working on that. Somewhere in this region and somewhere to the other side of that fig tree, we dug some trenches in the ground to allow water from the houses to soak in. This is the future sweet potato bed. I have my sweet potato slips ready, but now I need to get them in the ground. Meantime, this bed has had beans in it for a couple of years, and these are all volunteers. That's a volunteer, that's a volunteer, and I see some more volunteer beans over there. And I'm going to let them volunteer. The zucchini is here. We have a little loquat tree I planted there, and the pumpkin. The pumpkin does not seem very happy, and so I need to figure it out. One of the things I have not done over here is get this mulched in. These are all potatoes. This fig tree in the ground, however, has thrived. Check this out. I'm going to go from bottom to top. So down here, it started out as a 3-gallon fig. We planted in 2019. And it's got to be close to 7 feet tall. The trick over here is that in between the fig tree and where the second bed is we dug a second hole. That hole is about as big as a casket. That's the best way I know to describe it. And we filled it with lots and lots of wood, debris, compostable items, and let it just fill up with water. So basically it's an underground storage tank. And as such, we have found that this does really, really well. The second reason I think this does really, really well is, if you recall, I said that used to be beans next to it. The beans actually made their way over and trellised on the fig tree for the last 2 years. And so it has the nitrogen fixing from the trellising beans and lots of water, and it is thriving here. Next to there, it was our broccoli bed, and now we added onions to that bed, and now potatoes. So the broccoli is out, and now we have onions, green onions and bulbing onions planted. And we have some okra that is not thriving. Definitely could use more mulch in this bed as well, and some trimming in the edges. But the potatoes are flowering. That was interesting to me to learn that once it flowers, that means that they are starting to make baby tubers down there. So I am super excited about that. These were all planted much later than they should have been, so I'm behind schedule, but we're just going to let nature do its thing. Everything in my yard is an experiment. I don't know about y'all, but everything in my yard is an experiment. Here we have another persimmon tree, and it has a bounty of fruit this year. A bounty of fruit. And I think this one taps into that water trough under the ground and does really, really well. And this is the front gill. So the goal up at the front is to make it lovely and fruitful. And so we have some purple salvia here, or a purple sage that's growing up. I have some beans. Then I have these great fruit trees. Here we have a peach. We already have some fruit on. I'm going to get some little bags and put over the fruit to try to protect it from the mockingbirds who are already eyeballing it. Here we have a wing bean. We have plum. This plum tree is doing really, really well, even since our last live. This one I need to whip. I was trying to decide if I could see where branches were coming out, so I think I'm going to come in and prune it just between these two nodules right here, so that it can start making some branches and forming some branches. And here we have our fig tree up front. On the north side of the house, this became a favorite play spot for the cats, and so they left lots of deposits in here. So I'm not growing in most of this, but I am testing something here, and the tests are not going well. I covered these areas with cardboard with the hopes of keeping the cats out and using it sort of as a cardboard mulch. What happens though is I can get watering in there, but it really doesn't catch the rainwater like I would hope. And so these plants were planted, in fact, before the ones in the other garden bed, and you can see the significant difference here. The tomatoes aren't doing as badly as the squash. The squash is just not too happy about it. We are starting to get some tomato flowers now. Tried the same thing, but everything's an experiment. And I almost forgot, but next to the birdie's bed here, we have an avocado tree. And you might be able to tell that we didn't plant it in the ground. We planted it above the ground, and we had some fish left over. And so we planted underneath fish heads, and then we planted it on the ground, and then piled our great garden soil and compost around it. And if you saw the short I posted earlier this week, we have a bunch of avocados on here. If I had to guess, there are 75 or more avocados on the tree, and so we're very excited about the avocados. If I can find a spot for a plant, I put it in there. This is a bell pepper. What was in this pot died, and so I popped a bell pepper in there. I have this really cool pollinator garden here in the front, and so there's more work to be done, and we got to get it mulched in, but it's so nice having all these beautiful flowers at the front of the house. This mix of colors, mix of looks and styles. I've planted some of it, and then some of seeds are starting to come up finally. I put about 500 seeds out here, and so I'm hoping that more of them do take. It looks like maybe about 100 of them have taken so far. So this is going to be darn lovely when we're all done. We really got a lot growing on here. We've been eating really well from the garden sort of all season. We have tomatoes, we have a lot of greens, we've had some beans, and it's just really kind of nice to be able to eat from your own garden. I know folks who have joined us on this journey have done that as well, and so it's just really kind of fun to grow your own food and walk outside and just eat something fresh and delicious. This is my third year here on this property gardening. We started with a blank slate, but literally this was a brand new house on a lot with sod. And so everything except for the Ligustrum and Loropetalum in the front, which I did not feature or highlight, we have planted ourselves. So, or we've had help planting. And we're just going to continue to grow around the garden and figure out how to produce more food and more joy right here on our own little suburban garden. I appreciate everyone tuning in to the garden tour today. If you like this kind of content that I'm producing, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, you can subscribe and then hit that notification button. Remember, my fellow gardeners, to wear sunscreen, drink plenty of water, and have a fantastic day.